Welcome everyone to NHS Employers Parity of Esteem for SAS Doctors podcast. This podcast is part of SAS Week 2024, a platform for national stakeholders and NHS organisations to highlight their work and promote the value of the SAS doctor grades. Thank you for joining us. I'm Paul Deemer, Head of Diversity and Inclusion at NHS Employers. I'm joined by Professor Partha, Derek Thomas, Dr. Rob Fleming, and also Vinita Shekar. Perhaps you could introduce yourselves to those who don't know you. First of all, Rob.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start by saying thank you to the organisers for inviting me to come and be part of this. It's always a pleasure and a privilege. I am Rob Fleming. I am a specialist anaesthetist, which means I am a SAS doctor. I've been involved in national representation for SAS doctors for a number of years. I've been part of the Royal College of Anaesthetists SAS committee. I've been chair of the SAS committee at the Association of Anaesthetists. I've been a local negotiating committee SAS representative and a SAS advocate. And I have recently been elected to the BMA SAS committee. I'm also part of a group called the SAS Collective, who are working to try and improve careers and retention of doctors in the UK. I always start with a little thing just to say that I don't necessarily speak for any of the organisations that I represent, but I suspect most of my opinions do overlap with theirs.
Thank you, Rob. And Derek, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, Derek Thomas. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I'm Head of Medical Workforce at Morecambe Bay, the University Hospitals of Morecambe Bay, and I've been here for about 14 months now. I have a 21-year career in medical workforce. I also sit on the GNC SAS. I am the Deputy Chair, and I was involved in the contract negotiations for the 2021 contract, and more recently the contract negotiations that resulted in the pay deal being accepted nationally. So it's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to discussions, particularly with Rob in the room.
Thank you, Derek. Partha?
Hi, my name is Partha. I'm a consultant in diabetes. I'm based in Portsmouth, but I've got many hats in relation to this. I'm a counsellor of the Royal College of Physicians and also one of the national leads looking at race issues in the past. And one of the main areas of focus I have is about improving lives and careers of SAS doctors.
And Vinita?
So my name is Vinita Shekar. I am a specialty doctor in oral and maxillofacial surgery based at Ninewell's Hospital in Dundee, which is one of the cities in Scotland, for those who do not know Scotland. I am a proud fellow of Royal College of Surgeons of England, immediate past chair of SAS Forum, and invited council member who was part of the panel for the Kennedy Review, for those who are aware of the Kennedy Review. And I also co-chair the SAS Committee of Academy of Medical Royal Colleges.
Thank you, Vinita. So our topic today is parity of esteem for SAS doctors. We're discussing why this is crucial and the benefits this has for employers and SAS doctors. So can we start perhaps with Rob? Rob, could I ask you, what's your definition of parity of esteem and how does this apply to SAS doctors?
Well, I would start by saying that a career as a SAS doctor is often not considered at all. And when we talk about postgraduate medical careers in the UK, we often consider people passing through various stages of formal training and becoming consultants or GPs. And we don't tend to think about the careers of folks who are not doing that in any meaningful way. You often see articles written, well-meaning articles written, talking about making things better for trainees or talking about what it means to be a consultant in the NHS. But we don't as frequently consider the needs or the career development or progression of doctors outside of formal training programs. For me, parity of esteem is a brilliant phrase. I think it was psychiatry that used it first. And psychiatrists describe wanting parity of esteem for mental health compared to physical health, because they likewise felt that their specialty wasn't necessarily being seen on a par with other medical specialties. For me, I would say that parity of esteem would mean that being a SAS doctor is something that someone might choose without prejudice, that someone might join the UK workforce from abroad or as a new UK graduate and genuinely make a choice for their career about what suits their circumstances best. The Academy of Medical Royal Colleges SAS committee wrote an excellent paper called SAS, A Viable Career Choice, and it really should be. But for an awful lot of doctors, it's either not something they can choose or something that if they choose, they will find their career hindered rather than helped. Likewise, when the 2021 SAS contract implementation documents were written by NHS Employers, it talked about a career as a SAS doctor as being an attractive additional pathway for a career in medicine. And to me, that's what parity of esteem for SAS doctors would look like. Would be those things being true, they would be reality.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob. Derek, can I ask you the same question? What for you is parity of esteem? What does it mean to you? And how does it, again, for you, how does that apply to SAS doctors from your experience?
I think, in a word, opportunity as an employer. It's about giving the opportunity to SAS colleagues about their career and giving them a choice. Ask them what they want. I think for me is the fact that all too often SAS doctors are employed. They're seen as service fillers, if you like, but we don't ask them what they want at the point that we should in terms of their career progression. When we went through the 2021 contract negotiations, we talked about a destination grade. We talked about being a career that someone would choose, but they need to choose a career that is going to be fulfilling, worthwhile, they're recognised. And I think there's a lot of work been done since the inception of 2021 contract, both nationally and locally, that we're actually seeing SAS doctors for their true worth, that what they bring to the table, what they bring to an organisation. I certainly do. I've heavily invested my time over the last 6 years in terms of supporting SAS colleagues, supporting the national contract and seeing SAS doctors in the true place in any organisation. I do think that the needs are different. You can be a specialty doctor 4 years post-qualification. The needs of that individual is completely different to someone who's 15 years post-qualification. So therefore, when you're talking about career progression and development, it has to be tailored to those individuals, and they're not simply seen as there's a gap in the rota, can we cover it? We must ensure that they are given a fulfilling career and we retain them in the workplace. And whether they go on to a training post or whatever, well, I see that as a success. Whether we retain them locally, where they get a specialist role elsewhere, I see that as a success as well. This is about the SS workforce as a whole for me. And for me, it's about opportunity. The one word I say, parity of esteem, is opportunity for those colleagues.
Thank you, Derek. Partha, could I ask the same question to you, please? What to you is parity of esteem and how does it apply to SAS doctors?
I mean, I think Derek and Rob have probably covered most of the things, but I think I've sort of answered this probably from a consultant point of view. And I say that one of the big areas of barriers is basically bias. And I think that's different types of bias. You lead to institutional bias, whereby things are just put down as they are. There are things about what I call bias from consultants themselves. They believe that to a certain extent that SAS colleagues are a lesser trained individual will stop your progression wrongly. So I think that is also something that needs to be tackled, be very openly put out in the conversation. And finally, there will be a degree of intersectionality, whereby the majority of SF doctors with medical graduate backgrounds well shown to over about getting into leadership positions, or stuff like that. So there's a fair few things, but I almost say is that so I was giving you the last example. Make things more finite. Make things like, right, what is happening? And that recently, where relation meetings have done a freedom request, the result of it should come out. The result won't be any surprise with the number of SAS doctors who are getting better in the career. And it's because of all the things that we are discussing. So my view is make some finite points, know what the biases are. What can you do to make them understand? That's the sort of conversation.
Thank you, Partha. So, Vinita, what does parity of esteem for SAS doctors look like for you?
So, keeping in view of, reflecting on for years since I've been working for the college on leadership roles, for me, it is being respected for the choice of being a SAS doctor. It is recognizing and valuing the work being done by the SAS doctors as an equal partner in a team. It is being equipped with a sense of belonging and having a voice not just in a team but also in an organization, and being equipped with equitable opportunities to develop and progress in education and professionally as well.
Can I now go on to look at some of the common barriers for SAS doctors? And coming back to you, Rob, Can I ask you perhaps to tell our audience about perhaps some common situations that you have heard about or you've experienced relating to SAS doctors in terms of the barriers that they face?
Thank you, Paul. I think the barriers faced by SAS and locally employed doctors are multifactorial. But I think an awful lot of them come down to what we consider is supposed to happen. Now, Partha has hinted at my answer to this by saying that we think consultants are supposed to be leaders. And the inference is often to SAS doctors working in organisations that they aren't supposed to be leaders. You know, we all have a mental model of how the world is supposed to look, and that mental model defines the culture that we then perpetuate within our organisations and within our lives. I think, you know, the most common barriers faced by SAS doctors relate to the fact that they aren't considered, and this is where parity of esteem becomes very important. You know, if you advertise for leadership roles within your organisation, but you target your adverts to consultants, you send an email to all of the consultants within an organisation, a SAS doctor such as myself isn't going to see it. If you put an advert on track for a leadership role within an organisation that specifies for consultant applicants or specifies the consultant salary scale within the advert, SAS doctors are going to read it, and even if they believe they perhaps should be included, they will assume there's a reason why they haven't been and they won't apply. And this is true for an awful lot of things. Opportunity, as Derek said, is very important, and that opportunity is often withheld, not deliberately, just because people don't consider SAS doctors at all when roles are being created. We also have, you know, some cultural tropes within medicine that are unhelpful for SAS doctors, such as the idea that everyone who isn't a consultant is a middle grade. And this is a term that is much disliked by national SAS representatives, but only because it is still used so often. If we define everyone who isn't a consultant as if they were some kind of homogenous mass, a perpetual middle grade, then doctors don't get to become senior doctors, even if they progress onto a senior contract. You know, these things are culture in the end, and changing culture takes time and is hard. It isn't as straightforward as just writing a national document. I wish it were, because I've written a few. We need to try and shift the culture on the ground, and that's where the work of groups like the SAS Collective, that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Rob. And Derek, for you as well, can I ask you just to describe to our audience some of your experiences of some of the common situations that you've either heard about or experienced which relate to SAS doctors and the barriers that they face?
Well, I think one of the biggest barriers is perception from the wider trust about how the SAS workforce fit into the overall clinical workforce. We have to remember, you know, delivery of clinical care is a multidisciplinary approach. SAS colleagues provide some of that care. I think that there is some, I believe, misunderstanding, you know, certainly around the specialist role. How does that fit in the organisation? Because people don't quite understand that it's a senior clinical autonomous decision maker, and it's about having those discussions, particularly with some consultants. You know, sometimes they see those roles as a dilution of a consultant workforce, but if you don't have a consultant workforce in the first place, then you can't dilute it. It's an alternative. It is someone who could be used at that level. I've done many sessions locally, not just in this organisation, but in my previous organisation, where we talked about how the SAS workforce fits into overall workforce planning, because you need to have those discussions with operational managers, with clinical directors at that level. There needs to be buy-in to it to understand what they do, because actually what we want is a solid, stable, permanent workforce in any organisation, and SAS doctors can provide that. And when I started off, we talked about opportunity. So it's not just about the opportunity. Once the opportunity is there, then for me it's about the fact that how we actually nurture those individuals to stay with the organisation, develop them to be the senior colleagues that we want in a trust. You know, it's really difficult at the moment in terms of demand and supply, in terms of the workforce. I know that SAS will play a key role in the workforce, in the clinical workforce going forward, and they always will. So therefore we have to develop those individuals. The barriers that we face are the fact is about not from, I don't think it's from sort of workforce planning, it's the conversations we have with operational managers, care groups, divisional directors, that level, to make them understand where a specialty doctor fits in, how we develop that individual to be a specialist, and what that career trajectory might look like. But there's some investment from them required. They've got to be developed. You can't just employ someone and say, there you go, and here's your annual appraisal and here's your PDP, and do nothing in the 12 months in between. There has to be that sort of trajectory that we want these individuals to be developed, to want them to become more experienced, to become a specialist if that's what they choose, to become a consultant if that's what they choose, if they want to do the professional portfolio, which isn't for everyone, right? But it's something, how we support that, how we construct a job plan. And, we talk, a lot of specialty doctors come in that support rotas, mixed economy rotas that have high-level trainees, for example. And I've always said, and I've been very consistent with this, a work schedule for trainees and a job plan for specialty doctors is like oil and water. They don't mix. They have to be seen as separate entities. Okay, put the jigsaw together at the end to come up with a timetable rota, but the needs of a specialty doctor are completely different to the needs of a trainee, and they can't be one and the same, because they are different and the contract's different. And for me, the barrier for me is getting people to understand that it is different. This isn't a specialty doctor, is not a trainee with a job plan. It's absolutely not that. It's someone who's independent, who wants a career as an SAS grade, and wants to work at a certain level and have a career trajectory. And that, for me, is the most common barrier, is actually getting that message across and putting that in place locally.
And Vinita, what's your answer to that question relating to SAS doctors and the barriers that they face?
So I think unhelpful terminology, being called as middle grade, being called as non-consultant grade, being called as non-trainee. So basically being called as something we are not. So, that unhelpful terminology is not useful in many situations. Lack of individualization, being just recognized as I'm a specialty doctor or non-consultant grade doctor, but rather not being looked at by what values I hold in a team, what skills I perform in a team, and how important I can be in a team and for what I do. Many SAS doctors work in isolation. I think that's something is very common. They are in a fear of speaking up, and there is a lack of mechanism for their voices to be heard, even if they are right. One huge issue is lack of workforce planning for the SAS cohort. If you look at a recent workforce survey done by the Royal College of Surgeons of England, you'll see SAS doctors in the age bracket of 50 to 60, they are doing still resident on-calls. They are doing more frequent on-calls. So we look at the resident on-call rotas, we look at the consultant on-call rotas and workforce planning, but we don't look at SAS cohort of work planning. Clinical coding is another issue. We are not recognized for our work. The credit for our work is being given to the consultant grades. And there are barriers to leadership roles. Job descriptions are mostly based on consultant skill sets, and they are for consultants only. The most of the hospitals do not have recognized mailing list for the SAS doctors, and they're kept separate. So, that kind of sometimes excludes SAS doctors from the leadership roles. For example, even at a department, the meetings are known as consultant meetings, where even the nurses are present, but not the SAS doctors. So these are the huge barriers, very simple things, but they do matter.
Thank you, Vinita. So can we now talk about how employers can support the SAS workforce, given all that you've said? And could you perhaps give us some examples, starting with Derek? Could you perhaps give us some examples of how employers can support the SAS workforce? And try and give us some practical examples of how they can do that.
Yeah, sure. So what employers can do. So locally, since my arrival here, we've created and this feeds into the SAS forum, we've created a locally employed doctor strategy group, because we were clear that those individuals play a big part in the delivery of care across the organisation, but they also need to be looked after. But then we talked about how we give those individuals opportunities to become an SAS doctor going forward, because we acknowledge that some colleagues wish to take a fixed-term contract and move around to get experience, but some colleagues may wish to remain in the organisation. So part of that LED strategy group is then linking into the SAS forum that we have in the organisation. That existed beforehand. One of my very good friends and colleagues, Amit Kocher, is the ENT surgeon, associate specialist here at Morecambe Bay. So he and I discuss and work closely together about how we can ensure that SAS colleagues are developed locally and what we can do for those individuals. But it does start with a lower grade, if you like, a locally employed doctor, and what opportunities we give them. Because we talked about one of the ambitions of the SAS 6 is to give locally employed doctors opportunity to become an SAS doctor on a national contract. And quite clearly, that's one of our ambitions as well. This is again is about retention. This again is about career development. This is about, it's a big step for these individuals to come in. Mostly they're all IMGs, so therefore we need to get the induction right. We need to support them into the organisation. We need to learn about the ways of the NHS. So there needs to be a starting point, but we then develop that going forward for those individuals that wish to remain in the organisation and have discussions about the art of the possible, about what their career might look like. So that's what we're doing locally. The SAS forum exists. We have a number of legacy, I know I'm not supposed to use, but I need to use this as an example. We have 34 trust associate specialists in Morecambe Bay. Those individuals be given the opportunity to move to specialist contracts on national terms and conditions, because it's only right and proper that we do that. My ambition, and if it is a legacy for me before I finally retire and drive off into the sunset, it'll be the fact that I want as many individuals at Morecambe Bay to be fully supported, SAS colleagues to be fully supported, to be on national terms and conditions, to be looked after, and that every clinical business unit, every specialty understands the value of SAS doctors. So this is what we do locally. Some of it's a challenge. I can't say it's not a challenge, because there's a lot of things that we need to do. You talk about support and consultant support for SAS colleagues and consultant support for LADs, but it's finding time. When you're talking about the number of, educational clinical supervision, it's finding time. We've just developed a strategy around the fact that locally employed doctors should have a clinical and educational supervisor, the same as trainees should. We've done that. That's embedded in our job plan and policy. And I think for me, this is about the fact, but it's making sure that time is allocated appropriately. And, it is not just consultants that supervise LADs. SAS doctors can supervise LADs. Of course they can. They could be educational and clinical supervisors. And when Partha talked at the beginning about leadership roles and how that then fits into the organisation, just as an assurance to some people that will be listening to this, we advertise leadership roles on track. They are open to consultants and SAS doctors. They are open to that level. And obviously there's a person specification with any role, but they are not consultants. SAS colleagues are all invited to apply for leadership roles across the organisation. We have a deputy medical director that is a trust associate specialist. We have a clinical lead that is an associate specialist. We have a number of individuals, number of SAS colleagues that take on leadership roles across the organisation. So this is how you can support it. You need to, for an employer to truly value the clinical workforce, for me anyways, to truly value the clinical workforce, you need to put the foundations in, and that needs to start at the local employed doctor level through the SAS forum to then, therefore you got your local workforce and you support that. Morecambe Bay, it is challenged geographically. We've got 2 hospitals that are 70 miles apart. It's a lovely part of the country, but actually that's got its challenges. So how do we support both hospitals, one at Barrow and one at Morecambe Bay, and actually make sure that the staffing in both is optimum levels, etc., etc. So that's what we do. So I will bang the SAS drum as much as possible from an employer point of view, because I do believe that they have a critical and vital role to play in our organisation and across the wider health economy.
And you mentioned there, Derek, the SAS 6. Can you just describe what that is, please?
The SAS 6 is 6 asks. I've taken part in some Twitter chats with Rob and colleagues around how we support the SAS 6 asks, and that's where it comes from. I won't read them verbatim. However, they're perfectly sensible. And what's really pleasing to see is the fact that Royal Colleges are picking it up. They've been recognised as an ask. And I'm really pleased, I have to say, that Rob has joined the GNC SAS as a BMA representative. And I think that's great, right? Because a lot of the ask of the SAS 6 is certainly what we should be discussing at the GNC SAS, is about how we develop SAS colleagues going forward. So for me, it's about the SAS 6, absolutely perfectly sensible requests, perfectly sensible asks. It's how we actually take that forward. And now we have the platforms to do it. Now we have people like Partha, and the guidance has come out from the Royal College of Physicians. That's just more strings to our bow. I think that's an excellent thing. I've got it up here. It's part of our strategy going forward. It'll be discussed at the LED strategy group that I referenced before, and how we take an action plan from that and how we embed that into the organisation and the asks from the SAS 6. Everything in there is good, right? Everything there is sensible, and everything there is that employers should take due notice of it, and I'd encourage them to do so.
Thank you. And Rob, the same question to you. So how can employers better support SAS doctors?
So I would start by saying that there are no new ideas under the sun. Actually, there have been a huge number of documents written over the last 10, 15 years describing what a career as a SAS doctor is supposed to look like, and how being a SAS doctor could be a more viable route to have a career. The Academy of Medical Royal Colleges have produced a large number of very important papers. There have been a number of multi-organisational papers, such as the SAS Doctor Development Guide and the BMA SAS Charters, that describe kind of what good might look like. What I would say is that for the rhetoric, there hasn't necessarily yet been as much implementation as there needs to be for doctors to see a meaningful change in their day-to-day lives. And that's where the SAS 6 comes from. So the SAS 6 that Derek has hinted about already is something that was created by myself and a group of other like-minded individuals, basically to describe what we think are reasonably smart, measurable, specific things that trusts might do in order to better support doctors working within their organisations. The SAS 6 are based around the right contract for the work done, so it includes the opportunity for locally employed doctors to become SAS doctors if they're employed within an organisation for more than 2 years, which I'm very pleased to hear that Derek is doing. I know a number of other trusts are now adopting those kinds of policies and processes. It also includes the opportunity for senior and experienced specialty doctors who meet the eligibility criteria to have the opportunity to progress and to become specialists. Other aspects of the SAS 6 include meaningful professional development opportunity for early career specialty doctors. And when we say meaningful professional development opportunity, that should include something that I know is very important to Partha, which is that those doctors should have educational supervisors. There should be someone else who owns and supports their professional development. And the final two are something that we talked about a little earlier on, which is the opportunity for senior doctors to function as senior doctors, and for senior experienced SAS doctors to have the opportunity to be educators and leaders. And those 6 things, I think, are specific enough that trusts who wanted to adopt them could do so and could potentially make a meaningful difference within their organisation. I'd quite like at this point to shout out that we have had a trust, our first trust, to endorse these 6 things and decide that this is who they want to be. That was Northumbria Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust, who did this about a fortnight ago. We are sincerely hoping that there will be more, because these 6 things, in our opinion, shouldn't be controversial. They should just be how you take a less senior doctor, turn them into a more senior doctor, and then empower that senior doctor to work in all of the manners in which they could work. And I think that would be very good for the workforce.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob. And Vinita, what would your advice be?
I think each trust should have an SAS forum. It should be led by the SAS doctors, and the membership should include the senior workforce leaders within the trust. They should have an SAS strategy that should focus on implementation of recommendations from all national documents, create something with short vision, something with medium vision, something with long vision, and try to have implementation of those recommendations. Not just implementing those recommendations, but also developing a quality marker to recognize its success, and also creating a sense of belonging, for those ethos in a team. Offering mentorship for early years and support for senior SAS doctors to not just develop, but also appoint them in the senior leadership roles. For example, appointing them as clinical lead, clinical director, medical director, CEO. We need to ask questions why we can't be in those roles. So it's just recognizing that they can perform these duties as well, and they can actually do very well when given an opportunity.
Thank you, Vinita. And Partha, for you, what could employers do better to support SAS doctors?
I think I always say this, less chat, more work, is always good. And I think as a call to action, I would say to trusts is have a look and see if you got this part of your workforce, which is so important and you understand it. I think something we should take one step back and say, so what's my plan over the next 12 months for this group? What days am I doing to organize, raise their profile? What is it that I'm doing, right? Or am I just going to have another meeting in 12 months and say that, oh, we should have done better? So I think we should have a very clear plan. I personally believe every trust should have an SAS and employees whose role should be to help do exactly these things. So we have got, Derek mentioned early days now are one of the biggest parts of the workforce growing. We've got one develops and as tying it back into what Rob said, making a very attractive career proposition. But my challenge and my call to action for trusts and everybody else would be, have a think, what is your plan over the next 12 months? And challenge yourself, is it actually matching the rhetoric of all the glossy paperwork you have in your portfolios?
Excellent. Thank you, Partha. So can we move towards the end now? And I'd like to ask each of you individually if you were to put out a call to action for employers and offer them one piece of advice around greater opportunities for SAS doctors, what would it be? Perhaps I can start with Derek.
Talk to them. Go and talk to them. Ask them what they want. It's as simple as that. Go round, talk to them. Don't wait for the monthly meeting. Don't wait for the MDT. Don't wait for the opportunity to do something that is in the diary and is only done on a sort of bi-monthly basis. Go and talk to your SAS colleagues, because they're the ones that will tell you what they want, what we can do as employers to support them. And ultimately, if we do that, we can then ensure that they're looked after appropriately and they have the career that they actually deserve. So talk to them.
Excellent. Thank you. And Rob, what would your call to action be for employers?
Well, this is something I give an awful lot of thought, Paul. I would say I would encourage all employers to make sure that they have got adequate SAS representation within their organisation. They should have a SAS local negotiating committee representative, a SAS tutor and a SAS advocate. In my opinion, SAS advocate should be functioning at associate medical director level. So as Partha just described, someone who leads owns the careers of all SAS doctors within the organisation. I would encourage trusts that want to think about implementing the SAS 6. But more than that, I'd encourage them to publicly say that they're going to do so, say that the SAS representatives within their organisation are empowered to hold them to account. If you declare that this is who you are and what you want to do, it's a lot easier then for the people who've been appointed to represent SAS doctors within the organisation to make sure it happens and to push back against some culture that may remain in corners and pockets of your organisation that may not be helping the SAS doctors who work in those bits of your organisation.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob. Can I just say thank you to Partha, Derek and Rob for your time, and thank you to our audience for listening to us. We hope you found this useful. You can find out more about SAS Week on our website and get involved in the conversation on social media using hashtag SAS Week 2024. Goodbye.